Welcome to the Business of Hearing podcast, the #1 marketing and practice growth podcast for high-performing private practice hearing care leaders. It's Friday, and this is my end-of-week roundup of what's top of mind after 7 days of helping some of the world's best private practices to attract high-quality patients, fight the evil forces of manufacturer-owned chains, and be impossible to compete with. My name's Ollie Luke. Pull up a chair, pour yourself a drink, and let's have a chat. So welcome to another episode of the Business of Hearing podcast, and recording this at the end of Q1. Q1 has just gone past, and it's interesting to reflect on what has been a torrid quarter, not just in our industry, but amongst most industries, right? You look at where we are in terms of inflation, where we are in terms of the economy. It's a very, very funky time right now, and this was summarized quite nicely in some recent data from My Vitals Pro, who have data sets over 1,000 practices in the US. And what they've seen and observed was new patient appointments are down by 14.8% in Q1 of 2025 in comparison to Q1 of 2024. And it's big and it's significant. And many of the conversations I have with different practices, it's being felt. It's being felt by the small practices. It's being felt by the big practices. And the question comes, well, why is it happening? Is it simply the economy? Is there other factors in this that may be more specific to our industry? And there's a lot of unknowns. I had the joy last month of being part of an expert panel to share kind of why we thought these trends were occurring in the industry. And the general consensus was, it's flu season, it snowed a little more, the economy's funky, we've got a new administration in. There was a lot of the things that point externally to many of the factors that we can't control. But from where I'm sat, I think there's two key things that are clearly playing a pretty significant role in the way that we've traditionally won patients that is now causing these conflicts. And I want to talk to you about them because I'm not hearing anybody else talk about this. And from my perspective, it seems scarily obvious at what is causing these big things and more importantly, what can be done about it. So the first one, and you're probably not going to want to hear this because it's not that exciting, it's not new, but I believe that we as an industry have been somewhat arrogant over the impact that Apple's going to make on our industry. When Apple was first touting that they're going to launch some hearing health features, many of the conversations I had was like, no big issue. In the same way as OTC, it'll cause a bit of confusion, but it's never going to impact us. It's a different market for different people. Yet, I think we are seeing it. And what beautifully put this into the data rather than opinion very recently is when you break down that 14 or nearly 15% dip in new patient appointments. If you look at the units that new patients are buying right now, it's the entry level and basic level technology is on a steep decline, and the premium technology is steady and strong. And it shows the people that were looking to invest the least in order to achieve the outcome and now not coming to practices like yours. They're instead utilizing AirPods, trying AirPods. And now we've got a question on, is that going to be a long-term solution? Are AirPods going to be good enough? Or in the same way with OTC, that people tried them, realized they probably need something more, and then came to you, and it resulted in 2023 being a growth year after OTC hitting the market in November 2022. We've got the same question mark with Apple right now. The one thing that sits behind all this confusion with Apple right now is the AirPod Pro 3s. So you've got to keep in mind the AirPod Pro 2s that Apple are using for this hearing health technology, that hardware was launched in 2022. They've now added these software features through that hardware, but that hardware was not made to leverage these hearing health features. Their AirPod Pro 3s that are going to launch probably Q4, predicting for September this year, that's going to be hardware built to complement the software, and it's going to be significantly better. Like we see many of the things that people are saying about the AirPod Pro 2s, why they're not a good solution. One of the prominent ones is battery life. Apple own Beats, the company that they acquired, I think it was 2011 from Dr. Dre. And what's interesting is that company recently launched the most recent earphones, headphones that Apple as a brand have launched for a period of time. On February the 11th, they have 45 hours battery life. Like the technology is there. Apple have just not needed to build it into their AirPods previous. That's going to be there with the AirPod Pro 3. So the funkiness of Apple taking a big bite out the lower end of our market is happening. It's very clear. It's not just an opinion now, it's in the data. When entry-level technology is on the decline and premium technology is consistent, it shows that that is having an impact. And I naturally, curiously spend my time in a few Facebook groups that are more built for hearing aid users. It's hearing aid users giving their opinions, asking questions, getting help from each other. The number of conversations that occur right now about people saying how good the AirPods are, like that is, of course, we can say they're an uneducated user and they don't know any different. But if they believe it's to be true, if they believe it's true, it's probably true in their view. I'm even seeing things of people saying these are better than my prescription hearing aids. Now, of course, you and I can sit here and say they were probably badly fitted hearing aids from a bad hearing care professional. But like, if this is the narrative that people are seeing, and if I was in the market right now thinking that I need a set of hearing aids and I was reading that, I would be rushing to try and maximize AirPods before I come and visit somebody like you. It's a very logical thing for a big part of the market, and that is having a natural impact. Second big thing, and I think this is the biggest one right now that is having a big impact on especially more of the premium privately owned practices, is the big changes that Google rolled out. So I'm going to do a whole new episode on this because this is such a big topic in terms of how Google are changing so drastically right now, and the traditional model of how people made a search, seen a number of blue links and then found a website. It's pretty daunting of how traditional online marketing is being flipped on its head. But last year, with this AI race, with Google losing market share to ChatGPT when they should have won this AI battle and was so far out ahead, they launched something called AI Overviews, which means that right now, if you ask a question to Google around hearing health, hearing aids, hearing care, around swimming pool installation, around anything, instead of just giving you a list of blue links right now to say, go and find one of these websites and get your answer, what Google is instead doing is using AI to provide an answer that they've sourced and synthesized from a number of sources. So if you ask what are the different types of hearing loss, the user no longer now has to go to a website to get the answer. Google is providing it in a very instantly provided AI overview, which is interesting. Now, it's probably more convenient for the user, right? The user gets the answer to their question in a cleaner, quicker way. The challenge we've got for us is it's putting a halt on how people reach our website. And if we look at the 5 stages of awareness that people sit in their journey towards being ready and motivated to move forward with treatment with somebody like you, they start in an unaware category where they're entirely unaware that they've got a hearing challenge. They then go into a problem aware category where it naturally shrinks. They're the group that knows something's not quite right. You then have the solution aware category who've gone, okay, something's not quite right. I'm going to start doing my research and due diligence to find out about this, ask questions about this. You then have the product aware category where they're starting to see how the market splits and the differences. And then you have the fully aware category at the bottom where they've made their decision. They're ready to move forward. Private practices like us are fed on that middle bit. When people are looking to do research, we show up as the experts in the community to give opinions, give voices, ensure people know that they need hearing care, not hearing aids, and the benefits of working with somebody like us rather than just a band-aid hearing aid solution. Now, if Google are replacing that bit in the middle and we're not getting the ability to educate, build relationship with people on that journey to solving a hearing challenge, addressing a hearing challenge, it means that people are going from unaware to pretty much straight to fully aware. And that middle gap is a big, almost chasm of information that is no longer being impacted by us because Google are providing the answers. Now, that means that that bottom bit of the market, that fully aware, is becoming a bit of a bloodbath right now. And I think this is the biggest area where we're seeing a big gap right now. Whereas traditionally, we would have caught people who are in that research phase, who want to have a conversation, want to try and learn from you, spend time with you, or read from your website. Right now, them are not finding us. The ability to get content to get users to like blog posts on your website, so much more difficult than it ever has been because Google are trying to sit in the middle and be the fountain of all knowledge in order to almost make the user experience simpler to leverage Google's value proposition, but it's causing major issues for practices like us. So the question comes, well, what can we do about these things? If these things are true, right? If Apple are naturally taking a chunk of the market, how do we do a better job with this? And what do we do if people aren't finding information in the way that they traditionally did? There's a few things I'd be looking at right now. First thing is, you can't be for everyone. So if you're trying to be, we are the hearing care solution for everyone in a geographical region, that is becoming more and more difficult as the market grows, as the market splits, as the different options become wide and vast. The more you can have specificity on the types of patients you want to work with, the better. If you're super clear, like we help these people to achieve the outcome, then that means that your market, your message, etc., can be much, much, much sharper. So that's the first thing I'd be going is, who in the market do I want to serve? Because I'm probably going to assume it's not the people who want to spend the least to achieve the outcome. You probably want the ones who want to do it correctly and build a long-term relationship with you. Get really clear on that, because I believe that market is not being as hardly hit by the Apple piece than the general mass market. So get specificity on them, build the marketing, build your messaging towards saying we help people like them with the evidence to prove we help people like them to achieve significant long-term outcomes, not short-term band-aid solutions. So market positioning is really, really key for the Apple piece. This other piece of how do we help people and educate people, this is the biggest conundrum right now. And I think there's a few things I would be looking at. First of all, how do you be very early in taking people from unaware to problem aware? And really, how do you not be a problem solver? How do you be a problem seeker? And what I mean by that is, as practices, we've sat back and waited for people to come to us, waited for people to ask us questions about their hearing health. I think your job needs to be get ahead of that. How do we go to people and identify the problem, address the problem, and build relationship that way? Now, this could be old school lunch and learns. This could be community events. This could be online seminars that you invite people to, knowing that they don't really care about hearing health. But if you lead with a topic of aging well or optimizing your health as you age, you're going to capture people who are conscious they're aging and don't want to. Like, how do we take the problem to people rather than wait for them to come to us? And the biggest untapped channel from my perspective with that is YouTube. Now, Google own YouTube. I've heard predictions from very trustworthy sources in the marketing industry that one of Google's biggest products in the future, when search starts to take a bit of a backward step, will be YouTube. And right now, if we think for hearing health, for hearing aid information, there's only a handful of people who do a really good job on YouTube. There's big room there if you want to double down in that area. Second thing I'd be giving focus to is, a lot of people now are going from unaware to I'm going buying hearing aids because that's what Google told me I need to do. And there's going to be a lot of dissatisfied hearing aid wearers in the market. The more that you can go, well, people are probably going to make the wrong decision first and then realize that they need somebody like me afterwards. How do you ensure that you set your stall to attract existing hearing aid wearers who are frustrated and now realize the value that you bring to the market and the transaction? So how do you set up adoption plans to take on patients that have previously purchased? How do you set up like performance revamp appointments where you help a patient who's an existing hearing aid wearer to go from here to there over a 60 to 90 minute appointment? Like, how do you win the second sale and deal with the person who's made a bad decision first, and then naturally who gravitates towards you? So the market is super funky right now. Economy, weather, flu season, all of that stuff we would expect will change. Hey, economy may get worse before it gets better. But the things that you can control right now is, how do we take the problem to people rather than wait for them to come to us? How do we lead with content on the front end that isn't so reliant on the traditional things like SEO and Google ads to get people to come to us? And where do we sit in the market right now to ensure that we get away from the big battle of the people who want to do it in the cheapest way possible? That's what I'd be giving big consideration to, and my main thoughts of a very interesting and challenging Q1. So hope his Q2 will be significantly stronger for a number of reasons. You know, the people who've bought the AirPods or using the AirPods as for the hearing health features, are they going to realize that's not a long-term feature, and then that's going to pull more people towards you? And there's a lot of things that could naturally change here, but that is what I'd be giving kind of my key focus to. So I hope that's helpful. I know that's a little big picture and trying to explain kind of complex visuals. But very funky information right now. Of course, I can give you some motivational message of you're the leader of your business and lead your army into battle, but that stuff's not particularly that helpful when market conditions play against you. So just knowing what's going on, why it's happening, and strategically what you should be doing and where your focus should be going is the key thing that I would implore you to focus on right now. But I hope that's helpful. I'll be back again next week with another episode. I'll speak to you then. And there we have it. Another episode has come to an end, and I have a quick favour to ask. If you have found this helpful, then who do you know who should listen to this podcast? I strongly believe a rising tide lifts all boats, and right now, private practice needs to stick together to fight these big, gormless groups and these manufacturer-owned Goliaths that are looking to take market share from us. Consider who should be listening, pass on the word about the Business of Hearing podcast, and I'll see you again next week.